for joining me today on the Private Investigator Experience podcast, and I'm your host, Phil Little. I have a special report today, and it's a very sad report, and I believe it's something that could have been prevented. The assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson, I believe, could have been prevented with what I've learned in my investigation. This is very sad because this takes me back over 30 years to a breach of security that happened in 1989 when Rebecca Schaefer, a young actress on her way up, was murdered on her doorstep by a stalker who had been sending her threats and had shown up at the studio to try to see her. Rebecca Schaefer was not a big name, but she was on a television show by Sister Sam and was up and coming and was living in an apartment in West Hollywood. When the stalker, Robert John Bartow, found her address, it was a private investigator in Phoenix who he hired to find Rebecca's address, and the investigator didn't bother to find out why he was looking for this young woman. Prior to Schaefer's death, Hollywood was not really serious about checking out threats. They'd had so many of them, and most didn't act out with violence, and so many times they just put them in the trash and didn't even tell the victims about the threats. Among lesser known actors, providing security wasn't looked at as being cost effective for all these volumes of people they would have. Young actors weren't given any training on how to protect themselves. At least if we don't provide bodyguards or personal protection, let's train them how to use common sense to protect themselves. And Miss Schaefer's actions showed the results of not being trained on what to do. When Bartow rang her doorbell, the front camera was out, so she went to the front door to see who it was. Bartow shot and killed her. Had she been warned not to go to the door, not knowing who was there, she probably would still be alive today. This was a wake-up call to Hollywood and corporate executives. In 1990, West Coast Detectives and I was part of the founding of the Threat Management Unit at LAPD, which over time spread throughout the world and set standards for threat management, starting with the forensic examination of all threats, no matter how small. I would have thought that a company as big as UnitedHealthcare would have known about threat management. They have their own security details inside. In fact, they had in the past provided security protection for Brian Thompson. So why not now with all the threats? Even before 1990 and the Threat Management Unit being formed at West Coast Detectives, we had been handling celebrity protection since our founding in 1922, and I have personally had over 50 years experience in handling threats to high-profile people. Celebrities or movie stars aren't the only people targeted. Our client list includes big and small companies who took seriously the threats to their employees after the Rebecca Schaefer situation. They checked them all out, even though most turned out to be harmless. Why did UnitedHealthcare have bodyguards with Brian, who was going to a possible contentious meeting with stockholders, and others who might not be friendly with Brian due to the possible insurance problems they might have had, getting their claims denied, the layoffs recently of a lot of people in September? Also, this meeting was in New York City, where crime is out of control. What were they thinking? This decision was an epitome of the penny wise, pound foolish, or lack of concern. I would hate to think that at the top of the company about preventive protection. Prevention is cheaper than enforcement. I have drilled that into our clients. Prevention is cheaper than enforcement. And in this case, the cost was very big, a life lost. It seems like it takes a large cost, a loss of life, like with the Rebecca Schaefer, for companies to learn that the threat environment has gotten worse over the years and it's spread across America. These last few years, it's gone rampant with the current administration. At this point, the shooter is still on the loose and not a positive ID. He was familiar with weapons because he fired 3 shots at Brian. The first one, the gun jammed, and he could be seen chambering another round. The second one jammed. He also slid back the cylinder and chained another one in. And the third one also jammed and he kicked that one out, but he left lots of clues. He wasn't a professional, but he knew his weapons and had a target, and he hit the target. At this point, the shooter has still not been positively ID'd, and he's still on the loose. I'll keep you reports on that as they come in, as I keep digging in to find out more about what really happened and what was the mindset with UnitedHealthcare not having bodyguards, particularly in this environment. We've had clients that's had contentious stockholder meetings without threats, where we had a big presence of plainclothes security to make sure nothing happened. That was prevention. And I don't remember one case where the client opted for prevention. We had a problem while we were there. Many would say, well, you didn't need security. No, I say it was because we were there that headed off anybody that might wanted to get out of line. Be alert. Be aware and use common sense in everything you do during this holiday season. Please leave any comments or suggestions on any of the platforms. You can email me at pi777 at gmail.com. Thank you to all of you who have been liking and subscribing, running our subscriptions up and growing us. Would you consider liking, sharing, and subscribing? And you know the drill. Hit that notification bell for future posts. We have great plans for our channel, and we want it to grow so we can improve it for the betterment of the viewer and the listener. Be safe, and may God bless you and your family, and may God bless America.